Today is Saturday, November 29th, 2025. This is our day of Jukai, taking of the precepts, which will happen later in the afternoon at 5 p.m. And traditionally, we always give a teisho on the morning of Jukai, fall Jukai anyway, just to, because that's what we're doing. There are a lot of different angles you can take to talk about the precepts. They're basically the moral foundation of Buddhist practice. Traditionally, there are three foundations to practice. I think perhaps Roshi Kapleau's book, The Three Pillars of Zen, those three pillars are maybe tangentially or in some way another expression of the three traditional foundations of Buddhist practice. So Roshi's formulation was teaching, practice, and enlightenment. And teaching really corresponds to Shila, to the teaching of morality, the underpinning of our lives. Practice, we can say, corresponds to samadhi, second pillar in traditional Buddhism, and enlightenment, of course, prajna wisdom. We just recited the Prajna Paramita, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. So Shila is our morality, or the way of right living. And it really encompasses three of the three steps in the Eightfold Path: right speech, right action, right livelihood. In practice, or samadhi, could also call it forgetting the self, forgetting ourselves, oneness with things the way they are. This is really what we're doing when we're sitting, not trying to move from here to there if we're approaching it in the right way, not trying to get from here to there, trying to be completely here, to become one with this moment, to wake up in this moment. Can also call it calming the mind. Stillness. The Indian sage Ramana Maharshi said, when there are thoughts, it is distraction. When there are no thoughts, it is meditation. Thoughts come in so many forms. Some of them are hard to even notice. There's thoughts, there's attitudes, there's views. Just our feeling that we need to get somewhere sort of colors everything, doesn't it? Colors our meditation, it covers our life, our action. It's that feeling of incompleteness that drives so much of the pain that we cause ourselves and that we cause other people. Third pillar, is enlightenment, or wisdom, prajna. This is awakening to the truth that there is no separate self. In the verses on the faith mind, We recite, "Just calmly see that all is one, and by themselves false views will go." Really, all of these three foundations point to diminishing the role of this small self in our life. What Anthony DeMello calls the me. At heart, in our deepest nature, we're all Buddhas. Have this amazing mind. Takes everything in which the world arises. It's our own mind. But all of us carry this, this seed of separation. And when we act out of that, everything is off balance. Then we're into suffering. The word for suffering, which of course is the first of the Buddha's Four Noble Truths, is dukkha, which has the image of the axle of a wheel on a cart that's it's off center. This is how life can feel. Just never quite right. Today we're talking about the first foundation, the teaching of morality, the way of right living. And it's easy, especially here in the West, to see the precepts as something that's tacked on to Zen practice. When I came to the center, I wasn't here to become some sort of moral, upright citizen. I was here to get awakened and to not feel shitty all the time. But the precepts are really a description of the awakened life. All 16 precepts are descriptions of how we would behave if we were fully enlightened. This is the way of a Buddha. And we could say that the precepts are also a recipe for the awakened life. It's a guide, a way of seeing where we're at, where we need to go further, deeper, what more we need to let go of. It can be so valuable, and we'll talk about this later, to see what's wrong, to see how we're causing harm, to see how we're clinging to our individuality, our separate self. Nothing wrong with our individuality. It's our expression of our nature. But we can become limited. We can become one-sided. We can become selfish. It's a really simple word, selfish, egocentric. There's an interaction between these three foundations, between morality, samadhi or concentration, and awakening. The Buddha said, "From morality comes wisdom, and from wisdom comes morality. Like washing one hand with the other, so is morality washed round with wisdom, and wisdom with morality." And centuries ago, Zen Master Dogen said, "To study Buddhism is to forget the self." One of the fruits of practice, you don't have to have had some sanctioned awakening experience to see this. One of the fruits of practice is that we just carry our sense of self more lightly. It's not such a big deal. We're not so defensive. And when that happens, when we lighten the burden of self-consciousness, lighten the feeling of needing to always be protecting this self of ours, we become more available to other people, and we become more sympathetic, more understanding, more responsive to other people's needs, to what's going on with them. It's not all about me anymore. When that happens, as that happens, everything lightens up. Things become easier. Not that there aren't ups and downs. Not that we can't have our own private patch of misery rise up and throw us around. Begin to see the way. Begin to see a different way of living. Kindness begins to make sense. There was a Buddhist monk, lived in the late 7th century, early 8th century in northern India. His name was Shantideva. People may have heard his name. So he was living around the time of the Tang Dynasty, the golden age of Zen. And he talked a lot about this self-centeredness that all of us struggle with. He said, if one does not let go of self, one cannot let go of suffering. As one who does not let go of fire cannot let go of burning. Therefore, in order to allay my own suffering and to allay the suffering of others, I devote myself to others and accept them as myself. I mentioned the other day this guy I ran across who used to refer to the people in his life as my Ralph, my Joseph. Everybody in our lives is ours. It's our, they live in our mind. They're really an aspect of us. And when you begin to see people that way, instead of obstacles or sources of enjoyment or meeting our needs or frustrating our needs in one way or another, if you begin to see them as part of this one world, which is us, then the precepts become much easier, make more sense. And life becomes more joyful. When we grow up, we're so little and so defenseless. And no matter how vigilant our parents may be, they can never really protect us fully. We're going to run up again and again against disappointment and pain. You're little and we're powerless. It's natural that we develop this felt need to protect the self. But now we're older. We have a Buddhist practice. We have Zen practice. Have the ability to see more deeply and make ourselves vulnerable. Widen our area of concern. It's not just about me. Shantideva wrote, all those who are happy in the world are so because they desire happiness for others. All those unhappy in the world are so because they desire only their own happiness. Therefore, if one does not switch the outlook of self-centeredness to other-centeredness, let alone the attainment of enlightenment, even in this life, there can be no joy. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. This is the Bodhisattva spirit. There's a lot of Zen teachers who refer to their students as bodhisattvas. Each of us is. Each of us is a Buddha. Each of us is a bodhisattva. So as I said, this afternoon at 5 we'll be taking the precepts, and I'm going to go through them really quickly, try to go through them quickly, and just outline these. There's 16 precepts. There's the 3 refuges, the 3 pure precepts, and the 10 cardinal precepts. So the 3 refuges, we do that when we chant in the mornings here, and at other times I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dharma, I take refuge in Sangha. Which really means taking refuge in Buddha is I take refuge in awakening, in realization, in awareness, in attention. I take refuge in Dharma. Well, it's literally the Buddhist teaching. But Dharma means the truth, the way things are, the world as it is. Take refuge in the way things are. And then I refuge in Sangha. Originally in traditional Buddhism, the Sangha was the community of monks and nuns. But of course that has been expanded. Sangha is all sentient beings. Everyone else who's practicing Zen, practicing other traditions, people who are just living their lives. Take refuge in Sangha means I take refuge, I find harmony in community, in interconnection. I open myself up to loving my fellow man, finding the joy, becoming one with others. So briefly, those are the 3 refuges, and then that leads into the 3 pure precepts, which is just a really simple statement of what morality is about. I resolve to do no harm. I resolve to do good. I resolve to liberate all living beings. Pretty simple. Should all be able to do that. There's that story of a Zen master who was known as for sitting up in a tree. It's a thing some people did. I think Basui, the Japanese master, may have done this as well. Sat up on a tree because you're not going to fall asleep. If you do, you'll get woken up. So a Chinese government official, I can't remember who it was, but anyway, came to him because he'd heard about him, and he wanted some words of wisdom. Always opening yourself up when you ask a Zen master for words of wisdom. And the master said, to do no harm, to do good, to liberate all beings. And the government official sort of drew himself up and said, well, I mean, a little child knows that. And the master said, yes, a little child knows it, but even an 80-year-old man cannot do it. It's not complicated, it's simple, simple and nearly impossible. So that takes us to the 10 cardinal precepts, and I'm going to go through those. There's a difference. The precepts in Buddhism can seem kind of similar to the 10 Commandments in Christianity, and they are so similar, but they're more descriptive than prescriptive. And by that I mean it's more a description of how we would act if we acted from our deepest nature, from our true nature. And it's not necessarily a list of no's, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, it is, but it's more than that. This is how a bodhisattva would go through life. So it's not just prohibitions, it's also affirmations. Taking the first one, we say, not to kill, but to cherish all life. It's the two sides. It's what we're not going to do, and this is the spirit that it rises out of. In fact, it's really interesting just to go through the 10 precepts only from the affirmative side, which I'm going to do right now. Just list them off. To cherish all life, to respect the things of others, to be caring and responsible, to speak the truth, to keep the mind clear, to be understanding and sympathetic, to overcome my own shortcomings, to give spiritual and material aid freely where needed, to practice forbearance, and to cherish and uphold the three treasures. So the first, not to care but to cherish all life. This is literal.
You said not to care.
Oh God, kill me now. Not to kill, but to cherish all life. So this is literal and it's figurative. Obviously, the root here is not to take life unnecessarily, or obviously there are times, this becomes complicated, of course, like all morality, all virtue. There are cases where we have to kill. The classic example is a dog with rabies. But there's also the killing that we do incidentally, just moving through the world. There are so many small creatures that we step on as we walk through our lives. But certainly, killing other people is such a tragedy and such a violation of our nature. It's alarming how readily human beings can turn to war, to organized murder. And then, of course, animals. A lot of people are vegetarian or even vegan. It comes out of this desire not to cause harm, not to take the life of living beings. Everyone has to work out their own way with this. Roshi Kapleau, who was a big proponent of vegetarian life, used to recommend, don't give up meat, let meat give you up. And with all programs of self-improvement, it can work so much better if you open yourself up to seeing what's there, and when you're ready, take the step. So many things that we think through, we've got it in our right brain or our left brain. This is what I should be doing. And we haven't got it all the way deep down. We're sort of wrenching ourselves into a certain shape. And that when we do that, either it doesn't work, either we give up whatever noble aspiration we've taken up, or we become rigid and easily irritated. The irritation of saints is the phrase. It's really a question of finding our way with this precept and with all of them. And it goes beyond just killing people, killing animals. We can kill others when we shut them down or write them off. And we kill our own life when we live it out of habit, on automatic pilot, unthinkingly following our compulsive behaviors. To cherish all life means to truly see others. And they come alive when we see them. Second precept is not to take what is not given, but to respect the things of others. This goes beyond just a prohibition against stealing. Just not getting caught up in gaining and grasping. Resting in this moment, which is the one thing that is given. Jesus said, "Consider the lilies of the field. They toil not, neither do they spin, yet Solomon in all his glory is not arrayed as one of these." It's really seeing that we already have everything. In practical terms, living in community, not taking more than our share, taking care of communal things. We borrow things, bringing them back. Just being responsible. Taking care of other people. Third precept is not to misuse sexuality, but to be caring and responsible. Not to be selfish. Not to objectify. Not to see the other person as a means to your own personal pleasure. To let them come fully to life. Not to manipulate. Again, just seeing the other. There's a whole person there. Not just an attractive package of sexual characteristics. Fourth precept is not to lie, but to speak the truth. And this goes beyond simply outright lying to misrepresentation or allowing a convenient misunderstanding. All the ways we have of avoiding owning up to our own mistakes. I've often noticed when I'm late for something, often coming here late, especially back when I was head of Zendo and had to answer to Roshi, how all sorts of plausible excuses would pop up in my mind. It's just sort of automatic. You're running 10 minutes late and you run into a long stoplight and you say, well, I ran into a stoplight. it's funny. It's funny to see how quickly we find that lame excuse. Not being a person of excuses. So much easier if you just say, "Yep, I was late." I was wrong. I took the plums that you left in the refrigerator that you were probably saving for later. Forgive me, they were delicious. Yeah, it's William Carlos Williams.
Puerto Rican?
Ah, did not know that. Puerto Rican. All right. The fifth precept is not to cause others to abuse alcohol or drugs, nor to do so myself, but to keep the mind clear. Really, that final thing, to keep the mind clear, is really what it's all about. So much harm comes when we numb ourselves with substances, with alcohol, of course, with drugs, and in other ways. You know, your body is pumping out drugs all the time. We're all sort of in the grips of dopamine, endogenous morphines. And a lot of times our behavior is manipulated by that. We want to feel good. Alcohol and drugs are such a quick way to lessen the quality of your life and to spread harm to others, to yourself and to others. Of course, my own story, I struggled with alcoholism. Well, I didn't really struggle with it. I kind of gave into it. I guess I struggled. I would try to control my drinking, but it caused a lot of pain. And my practice kind of disappeared to a large extent during the height of my drinking. This precept is really, people have pointed out, it's a gateway to breaking all the other precepts. Once you're drunk, there's so many things that you can do. And it really, really ties into our selfishness. No one's more selfish than a drunk when he's high or an addict. Willing to say or do anything to keep it going. My son struggled with drug use, especially with heroin. Told us once, my wife and I, anything an addict tells you about what he's doing, multiply it by 10. It's a tragedy. It's unfolding throughout the world. So many people dying of opioid addiction. So many families torn apart. Children neglected. But even drinking under control can cause harm, can lessen our lives. If you're drinking under control, it's a sign that maybe you shouldn't be drinking if you have to control it. Carl Jung famously said, "An honest drink would no man deny." And that's right, that's true. There are a lot of people that can have a beer with friends and it's not a problem. You have to look at it. There's a story of Richard Feynman, the famous physicist, who I think he was in Brazil for one reason or another, and he got into the habit of going to bars and having a drink You would chat up the airline pilots and stewardesses and personnel that were stewards who were there. It was fun. And one morning he suddenly was struck with a desire to drink. And he thought, wait a minute. He didn't want to have his mind affected in that way. He was so committed to his mind, to his research. This guy was a Nobel Prize winner. Just a brilliant man, brilliant instructor. He felt that sudden sort of compulsion, and he gave up alcohol on the spot. That was it. It's amazing. So many places where I read stories about some of the great physicists, and I think, if only I could practice Zen the way these guys practiced physics. Just a total devotion, turning the mind to the problem at hand. The sixth precept is not to speak of the faults of others, but to be understanding and sympathetic. This really points to right speech, one of the steps in the Buddha's Eightfold Path. When we speak of the faults of others, we should be asking ourselves, is this helpful? Is this kind? Sometimes it can be kind to point out other people's faults. Sometimes it could be the right thing to do. But if we're justifying ourselves, if we're trying to make ourselves look better than others, not so good. Zen Master Muman said, if you argue right and wrong, you are a person of right and wrong. That is, a person who dwells in criticism. It's one thing to see clearly, it's another thing to sit in judgment. Especially, I had so much of this early in my practice, looking around, comparing myself to others, and criticizing others and criticizing myself. The sixth patriarch, Huineng, said, I see, but I do not see. And he was asked, what do you mean by I see, but I do not see? And Huineng said, seeing, I constantly see the errors and faults of my own mind. Not seeing, I do not see other people's rights and wrongs, goodness and evil. He also said, when others are wrong, I too am wrong. When I am wrong, I alone am wrong. We're responsible for ourselves, not for others. Everything that people do is a result of causes and conditions. This is basic Buddhist teaching. We think we're running the show, but we're so much a product of nature and nurture, what we've inherited and what's happened to us in our lives. So we say everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. It's a hard precept to keep, not to speak of the misdeeds, the faults of others. But it's really a good one to carry with you and to look at. What's going on when you decide to gossip with someone else about the faults of someone you both find annoying? It's not a good look. The next precept, the seventh, is not to praise myself and disparage others, but to overcome my own shortcomings. Really, what we're doing when we praise ourselves is reinforcing our selfishness, our self-bias. This is one I struggle with. It's been pointed out to me by a number of people that I have a tendency to pat my own back. We're always looking for some indication that we're okay, that we're good. It's nice to praise others. So much more good comes out of that. It's nice to just see others, to enjoy others. It's where the joy in life is. What this is all about. It's losing this small self. Letting it take a back seat. Gradually. That's where the joy in life is. Don't have to be lecturing ourselves. Don't have to be perfectionistic. Just have to be kind, and we have to be awake. Have to see what's there. The 8th precept is not to withhold spiritual or material aid, but to give them freely where needed. This is a tall order. And not to do this because we should. In the Bible, in Matthew, it says, "Let not the left hand know what the right hand is doing." We find ourselves helping other people without any kind of moralistic undertones. It's just nice to do. It's not because we're special people. We just have good taste. We found the joy in doing this. It's easy to do when we do. The 9th precept, not to indulge in anger, but to practice forbearance. The Buddha said, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned. The whole cascade of stress hormones that runs through your body isn't damaging the object of your anger. You're just hurting yourself. This is another one that comes gradually. It's natural to get angry. What do we do when we notice? Do we notice? It's right there in the body. It's really kind of nice to say, oh, wow, I'm angry. Sometimes it helps just to admit it. Say, I'm a little hot under the collar here. It's a better way of getting into whatever the issue is than to talk about the other person. The Dalai Lama said something really interesting. He was asked about his apparent lack of anger toward the Chinese. This was at the time that he won the Nobel Peace Prize, speaking with a reporter. And he said to him something to the effect, as recounted by John Kabat-Zinn, says, "They have taken everything from us. Should I let them take my mind as well?" Actually, I saw this on a sign outside somebody's house on Goodman Street when I was taking a walk around the block. This is really a wonderful thing. In AA, they used to say, don't let other people live rent-free in your mind. The 10th, the final precept is not to revile the 3 treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, but to cherish and uphold them. Really, it just comes down to gratitude for the path. Gratitude that there are so many people, Buddhist and non-Buddhist, walking this path. In AA, they say walking the road to happy destiny. We're so lucky. It's such a healthy way to move ahead. Such a healthy way to bring more joy into our life. When we start paying attention to the precepts, we see so many of our shortcomings. They come into sharp relief. But that's not a problem. That's great. It's good to see. There's a story that Martine Batchelor tells. She was a practitioner of Korean Zen, has written some books, some good books. She says, a month into my second 3-month retreat, this is something they do in Korean Zen. We do 7-day sessions, a number of them during the course of a year. There they pack it all into one 3-month retreat. I think they just do one a year. Probably some people do more. She said, a month into it, I was sitting on my cushion asking, what is this? That's the koan that's most commonly used in Korea. What is this? She said, when I suddenly became very aware of what was going on in my mind. It was all about me being at the center of the universe. What I wanted, what I hoped for, what I did not like, and so on. At the time, I was practicing with 4 other young women, and I realized that they too were doing exactly the same thing. Self-interest was the basis of our identity. This clear awareness did not make me upset. Instead, I found it funny. It exposed my fundamental misperception of myself as an incredibly compassionate and selfless person. This experiential awareness led to a deep self-acceptance. I saw clearly for the first time the obstacle at the center of my suffering and what was needed to transform it. This made me feel lighter. I wasn't in the dark anymore about the conditions that caused me to keep making the same mistakes again and again. Seeing the delusion of a separate self is the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of virtue, beginning of practice. Okay, this was a long one. We'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.